Senior Citizens Gone Wild. You're going to love today's show because I'm interviewing Hal Cranmer, who runs assisted living facilities in the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. And he's going to share with you what he's done to take this group of wise individuals to help them clean up their health, clean up their diet, get off medications, lose hundreds of pounds through primarily a keto, animal based, carnivore style of eating. We're going to talk about the power of the morning sun, some movement, community, and really changing the mindset of people to understand how we don't have to agree that we've signed up for chronic disease and all of these lifetime illnesses as we age. We've been conditioned as a society to accept that the aging process means that we're going to break down. Yes, of course, we're all going to exit the earth at some point, but do we have to do it hooked on 10 or 12 different pharmaceutical medications and spending our last years of living in an assisted living or bedridden or any of that? No, we're here today to share some examples with you of what is possible with a little bit of thought work and shifting in our belief systems that we've been raised with, always believing that the doctor is the expert, they're always right, and that we're bound to this pharmaceutical way of life and living. We're going to be starting some different groups here in the Phoenix Scottsdale area. If you're interested, go to peakperformancehabits.com/Phoenix. That's Phoenix. I'll have it in the show notes. It's on the screen. If you're listening, just check the show notes. I'm Jackie Elmer. Welcome to Lower Toxic Life. Grab my guide at lowertoxiclife.com, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment what resonates with you. So Hal Cranmer, thanks so much for spending some time with me today and the community.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, Hal, you have a very interesting story about how you came to the carnivore lifestyle. And so I think the best thing to do is just to have you tell your story and share with us a little about your background and how you arrived at this WOE way of eating.
Okay. I'd love to. Sure. I owned four assisted living homes around the Phoenix, Arizona area, and I really bought them as a real estate investment, not as a big business passion. I don't have any healthcare experience, anything like that. I have real estate investment experience. And then when I bought them back in 2015 and 2016, and when I got into them, I walked around and saw what was going on, and I was kind of I bought them from someone else they were already running, and the caregivers were telling me, well, we just get them watching TV, and we'll do play bingo every so often, and you know and then we worry about their medications. We have doctors come in and prescribe medications, and we give them to them. And I go, okay, so how do they do with that? Oh, they kind of gradually decline and then pass away, and we get more people coming in. And I thought, well, it seems like we do a little better than that. So they they kind of thought of food as, an area we could save money on to help the business, which is great. I'm very happy the caregivers want to help the business and everything, but it just seemed like it was hurting the business because we were having a lot of people pass away, and then you'd have to find someone else, and they weren't in good shape, so they didn't last long. And I just thought this doesn't seem like a great way. I also saw, I have a lot of competition. I have homes in Surprise, which is right by Sun City. And everyone knows that Sun City is a very big retirement community. So a lot of assisted living businesses cluster around there to take advantage of the business opportunity. Let's put it that way. So what made me think about it was, okay, what do we do that's different than other communities? And we didn't really do anything different. Communities kind of base it on, yes, we have activities. They base it on, look how beautiful our building is. And then they base it on like things like, hey, look at the gorgeous cooking we do. So, you know, not how healthy you are, but look at this gorgeous cake we made, or, we made a fantastic lasagna with all kinds of garnishes. And, but maybe you like French fries, so we make seasoned French fries and things like that to, same thing that the restaurants do to lure you in. But it doesn't, you're dealing with people who are really sick. And, that's great if you're 25 and going on a date and you'd have nothing to worry about because you think you can live forever. But it's not so great when you're 85 and you've got Alzheimer's and you've got diabetes and you've got fibromyalgia and you've got congestive heart failure, or a combination of all those kind of things. So I thought let's try to be a little better. And I had a guy come in that really didn't want to be in my home. His wife was putting him there. He was in a wheelchair. He wanted to live at home. And so I just asked him what what are you willing to do to get back home? And he said, I'll do anything. And I go, you want to work really hard? If you can get healthy enough, I could send you back home and you don't need to be here. And he said, I would love that. And I'm willing to work really hard. So I hired a personal trainer for him. And I talked to his wife and I said, if we can get him to the point where he can walk out this place and get in your car, will you take him back home? And she said, oh yeah, I don't want to pay for this every month. So he worked really hard. He exercised with the personal trainer. I just told him you got to cut out sugar. I kind of did my mom's diet, eat your vegetables. Don't eat lots of candy and sweets, things like that. And he worked really hard at it. And about 7 months later, he walked out of our home and walked to his wife's car, got in it, and they drove home. And I went over to their house later and checked on him. He was out walking his dog. So he really embraced it, and it was really neat. But it made me think, hey, maybe other people want to have this happen to them too, that they don't want to move into an assisted living home where there's lots of other sick people and everyone's sort of waiting to die kind of thing. Um, so I talked to that trainer that we hired, and he was a big vegan. His wife was a vegan. And they're like, oh, you got to adopt the vegetarian lifestyle. Meat's cancerous. It's a big carcinogen. You don't want to do that. So I was like, I guess I don't want to do that. So I hired some vegetarian or vegan nutritionists, and they had me running all over town trying to find ingredients and feeding all kinds of exotic stuff to my residents, and my residents kind of revolted. They were not happy having salads for breakfast and, no meat and no eggs and very little fish. So I had some residents actually tell me, or family members say, if you keep feeding us this stuff, we're going to move out. And so I didn't want that to happen. And I didn't see a big change in them. I didn't see people, healing or getting better. So I went back to what I fed that originally guy and said, okay, let's just keep the sugar way down and let's, serve them meat, veggies, things like that, the whole food sort of, a lot of processed stuff. But I was still feeding them lasagna and spaghetti and things like that. I was thinking that's okay. And then I just started researching it. And I came across a guy named Dale Bredesen, who's a neuroscientist out in California, who spent 30 years studying Alzheimer's. And he's a big fan of something called the ketogenic diet, which I'd never heard of before. And his thoughts were Alzheimer's is really type 3 diabetes. And your brain is very inflamed when you have Alzheimer's, and you have a lot of insulin resistance in your brain, and the glucose is not getting up there to fuel your brain. Your brain's a huge energy sink. It needs a ton of energy. And if it can't get it, then it's going to start dying, which is what you get with Alzheimer's and dementia. However, ketones that your body makes when it's at a glucose deficit can fuel your brain and can get past that blood-brain barrier, and you don't have to worry about insulin resistance, and it actually does it very efficiently. So I started looking into this ketogenic diet and realized it still sounds very healthy. It's, meats, fish, eggs, a lot of animal products and vegetables. Now, Dr. Bredesen's much more into the plant-based eating than a carnivore would be. But I just started looking into it. And then I heard a podcast from a guy named Dr. John Jaquish, who wrote a book called Weightlifting's a Waste of Time and So is Cardio. And I'd sort of done both my whole life and thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I read his book. He has an exercise program called the X3 that's basically a bunch of bands. And he said, if you really want the best gains, you've got to eat a carnivore diet. And I thought, that's really weird. I'm, and he had a whole bunch of studies that said, no, it doesn't cause heart disease. You're not going to keel over from a heart attack. You should try it. And so I tried it I bought his exercise equipment and tried it. And wow, what a difference. I gained 10 pounds of muscle. It's very hard for me to gain weight. And I felt amazing. I had some health issues completely clear up. And I was like, this is awesome. I would think this would be great for my residents. So I started talking to a bunch of families, and they're like, no, I don't want my mom just eating meat. There's cholesterol issues, and she's going to miss, she likes some vegetables, all this stuff. So I backed off. We went with the ketogenic diet, but now I'm seeing all kinds of great things with my residents, and some of them are adopting the carnivore diet and loving it. I just got a text from one of my managers today. We had a lady check in with us, weighing about 460 pounds, and her latest weight is 337. So she's lost pretty close to 130 pounds since she's been with us for about 8 months. And we have all kinds of diabetes clear up. We see even memories improve on this diet, not just carnivore, but the ketogenic one as well. So I'm thoroughly convinced how great this diet is and how great this lifestyle is. I've got some of my family members on it, and we're all just loving it. So sorry to take so long. That's a roundabout way to tell
No, it's perfect because, the power is in the story and it's in what your residents are actually experiencing and what you're experiencing. And I love the fact that, you were out seeking, looking for other information. And it is funny, love it or hate it, Google, YouTube, the algorithms, how they track us, all of that. It can be a really good thing when they start following kind of the pattern that we're going down, and it starts putting stuff out into your universe that you might not have found, which is kind of my story. If somebody would have told me I would have explored carnivore, I would have laughed at them and said, "You're crazy." And then
Well,
sure
that's
enough,
how we
here I
found
am.
each other. That's how we found each other.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Because the algorithm put you in front of me. And then all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, he lives in Phoenix. He lives in the Phoenix area. We're both in Scottsdale, and only about 2 miles apart. So even that's kind of funny in and of itself, how all that happened. But that started
So
on
cool.
X. And then like anything, your interviews with Sean Baker and a lot of other people started showing up in my YouTube feed because my phone is always listening and watching what I'm doing, no matter what platform I'm on. So it
That's
is
scary.
interesting. What,
Mhm.
how tell us a little bit about what your growing up and lifetime eating habits were before this.
Okay. Yeah, it's been quite an evolution for me too. I was born in India, in New Delhi. My dad worked for the embassy over there. We lived there for 3 years. I don't remember much of it. Moved to Connecticut. I mostly grew up in Connecticut through high school. That we had a 3 year break. My dad worked for Mobil Oil, and we lived in England for 3 years, just outside of London. And then from high school, I went to college at the United States Air Force Academy. I was an Air Force pilot for about 10 or 12 years. I flew for a major airline for a couple of years. Then 9/11 changed everything. I went into manufacturing and then kind of did some real estate, house flip, and rental properties on the side. And that's what kind of led to the assisted living. My diet for most of my life was horrible. I never really, I mean, my mom did harp on it. I was not a fan of vegetables when I was a kid. But the one good thing is I ate tons of cheeseburgers. Unfortunately, they were mostly at McDonald's and other Wendy's and other fast food establishments. I always thought I played a bunch of sports in high school. I wrestled, played some lacrosse, played football, and I always thought I could out exercise a bad diet. Like I could eat anything I want as long as I went to the gym, I'd be fine. And when you're 16, 17, 18, 20 years old, you can kind of get away with that. It doesn't, there's a lot going for you that it doesn't against you. Um, what when I was after my airline career and when I was in manufacturing, we were mostly living in Minnesota. My wife's from there. It seemed like a great place to bring up the kids. I sort of came across the Mark Sisson, who wrote the Primal Blueprint, who had Mark's Daily Apple website, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And what really attracted to me to it was him, because he was like a 60 something year old guy back then, and he looked in phenomenal shape. So I thought, okay, I am getting a little bit of a belly. I'd come home from work and have a beer after work practically every night, and then on the weekends probably go out with friends and have a couple more. And I thought, wow, he's doing really well. So I ate more meat, ate more lean vegetables, tried to cut out grains and things like that. I'd still have cereal every morning, and but I remember in high school I'd have cereal and a donut every morning, so I guess I was getting better. And then um, it wasn't until I came down here and really researching it for the other people that I realized there's uh, there's a better way. And when I came down here, I'd always had lower back pain from high school sports and working out. I pulled my back a couple times doing a bunch of weightlifting and probably doing the wrong form and everything. And then when I came down here, I had chronic diarrhea for some reason. I couldn't get rid of it. I went to a bunch of doctors, went MRIs, CT scans, ultrasounds, and the best they offered me was a probiotic, and that didn't do anything. And I finally turned to a functional medicine doctor on out of desperation and a recommendation from a friend. And he put me on a carnivore diet and gave me some extra probiotic supplements and said, just do this for 2 weeks. Or just do this and don't cheat. And in about 2 weeks, I was completely back to normal plumbing wise. And I was like, wow, that really worked. So I think I got like an early introduction to it. But then I went down the whole keto research road and started doing it with my residents too. But my lower back pain's completely cleared up. For a long time, I'd get out of bed in the morning and kind of hobble to the bathroom and try. It was a pain to get my clothes on and that kind of thing. And it would clear up as the day went on, but then we'd repeat the same thing the next morning. Now I get out of bed not like I was back in my 20s. Like it's easy. I don't feel any lower back pain. I can lift stuff well. I helped my son move the other day and no problems at all. So I love the way I feel, and that feeling keeps me from cheating. Like I don't I look at the candy bars in the checkout aisle. I look at, the liquor store, no interest at all anymore.
I'm the same way. It doesn't even sort of tempt me, interest me. I don't have FOMO. I don't feel like I'm missing any of that because
Right.
it's like kind of like what you said, when you feel good, nothing matters more than that. Nothing is worth potentially upsetting that. And I think so many people today think they feel good because they're tolerating all these things that we've been taught to tolerate. We've been taught to believe and tolerate that aches and pains and joints and lower back pain and all of that is just part of aging. Like we just need to accept it because as you age, you're going to break down and blah, 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 blah. Yes, I believe that to an extent. But the thing that's always been interesting to me, and I've pondered this for a long time, if you cut your finger, you give it a couple of days and it heals, right? Like,
Right.
unless you have a dramatic, like you slice it off or really do whatever. Most of the time, you don't need to go to a doctor. Ideally, you clean it out, you keep it protected for a few days, and it begins to heal. And you can watch it. It's almost like a miracle. You go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, wow, it's a little bit better, whatever. And we do
Right.
take care of it. But for some reason, we don't expect or believe that the same thing can happen internally. But I think one of the things that we're missing is that we aren't fueling internally our body. We aren't doing a good job of feeding it, protecting it, giving it what it needs to truly heal. But I think that it will heal. And it amazes me how many people's story is like yours with lower back pain or aches and pains, or, I was having joint and inflammation pain and a lot of that kind of stuff, and thinking, I cut out all the gluten, I cut out this, I cut out that, and nothing completely seemed to be healing it. But of course, I was a huge victim of toxic superfoods. I'm a huge advocate of Sally K. Norton and the oxalates that are in that, which I think is potentially part of the downside of the keto style of this kind of eating, whereas carnivore eliminates all of that. Some people can tolerate more, but when we've been taught to replace all of our flours with almond flour and spinach in your smoothies and all this kind of stuff, and yet they're actually filled with anti-nutrients, just because they want to survive too, it overloads us. So I love your story about healing your back and so many other things.
Yeah, it just feels so amazing. And I think your thing about the cut, I actually notice if I cut myself now that I'm on carnivore, it heals faster. Like every part of your body works better when you fuel it with the right stuff.
I think
Um,
so too. I noticed that about bruising. Like as I started,
oh,
getting older, I started noticing how much longer bruises last, or how much more colorful they were, or different things. Or I, barely hit myself on something. It seems like when I travel, I'm an airline person too. It's like I'm always hefting bags, or racing to do this, whatever. And slowly but surely, it was like it would take its toll on me. I would get these bruises, but I'm definitely noticing much less bruising. They heal faster, and that's the only thing that I can correlate it to.
right. Yeah, it's pretty cool because in my assisted living home, of course, these 85, 90-year-olds, when they bruise, it feels like it's a lifetime that bruise takes to heal up. But some of them start healing up very quickly when we've got them on this diet. And what you say about us just being able to heal naturally, the problem is we call it chronic disease, which makes it sound like, well, you're stuck with it the rest of your life. And I hate to bring up conspiracy theories, but what a great business model. Like you have to buy my product the rest of your life because you have this condition now. And I don't, I really believe that there is no such thing as chronic disease, that every disease can be put into remission, just like your cut can be healed. Some of them are going to need a lot better, pure, high quality fuel than other stuff, but um, you know, if you catch it early enough, just like a car, you can drive it into the ground where it gets so bad that they're going to tell you get a new car, or you can, hey, I need to change my oil every 3 or 6,000 miles, right? And it'll last forever. So you should be able to do that with your body as well. Obviously not forever, but you can live a long and healthy life. And the worst part of it is, we get 70, 80, 90, 100 years on this planet. You don't want to spend 20 of it in pain and in a bed and a wheelchair and in and out of hospitals. You want to spend, the last 3 months of it like that, and then have a wonderful life up until the, 99th year, whenever you're going to pass. And it's really sad to see so many people that even in their 50s and 60s are looking at the rest of their lives in a home like mine or another facility.
Are on these constant medications. I mean, it's very rare today to find somebody. I'm not on any medications. And every time I see a doctor or whatever, or do anything like that, people are like, really? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
no, never have been, happy to
right.
say. And I intend to not be, and I have my 92-year-old father who's on a very low dose recently of heart blood pressure, which I'm working to get him off of because I'm
Awesome.
ketovoring him. I'm working him into carnivore, but
That's,
he's living with me. He's dependent on me to feed him. So
yeah, that helps.
it does. It does. And I watch him changing, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the daily regimen with your residents too. But I'm kind of doing some of the same stuff. Like he gets up, he has his water, then he has his coffee, he takes it outside, he's out in the morning sun every morning, getting that red light therapy, getting natural sunlight in his eyes. He's on using a walker, but he walks around the pool. He's religious about doing it, and he's eating so much better. And I'm watching him just slowly but surely. I'm watching the color change. I'm watching his mood change, just be happier, all that kind of stuff. And it's very interesting, and I'm tracking it. And so that's why I was so interested in hearing your story, because I know you're doing that too. So talk to us a little bit about what a day in the life of your residents looks like.
Sure. Okay. So, like you said, we get them up every morning, usually around 7, some a little before, some a little later. We generally have two caregivers there during the day, one at night and one what the nighttime caregiver will get a couple residents up before the daytime people come in about a little before 7, just to help them out and that have a little hour transition between the two shifts. And obviously get them dressed. We do showers maybe 3 or 4 times a week. So we'll do that. And then we'll get them outside. We actually have some hydrogen water machines. We give them hydrogen water and put them outside. There's a walking track behind each home. If they can walk, we'll have them do that. But the big thing is, like you said, get some morning sun, some light, just the fresh air. Fresh air is supposed to be a great, what do they call it? Not a, I don't want to say decongestant, but um, helps flush out viruses and things like that, just breathing in and out the fresh air. So disinfectant, that's the word I'm looking for. And we'll bring them in, have breakfast. It's some form of eggs. We'll do bacon or sausage. We really try to get bacon that doesn't have sugar or isn't cured in sugar. Same with the sausage. Get some good eggs in them. And then in the mornings, um, if they didn't shower when they got up, we'll have showers. And then either in the mornings or the afternoons, we'll um, do a bunch of exercises. The afternoon, usually I have a personal trainer come in that does exercises, and with them we use that X3 that I was talking about, John Jaquish, or it'll be a walk around the neighborhood, or maybe some weights, or just some body weight exercises, some squats. We have railings around the house. Um, we also have some devices called exercise with oxygen therapy, where they ride a bike with an oxygen mask. They start off with a very high concentration of oxygen, about 85%. And then we flip a switch and it drops down to 14%. Air is 20% oxygen. So it simulates like they're at high altitude. What that does is the body realizes, hey, I'm not getting so much oxygen. It dilates all your blood vessels. It brings your heart rate up, and it prioritizes certain organs like your brain for oxygen. And we'll have a pulse oximeter on their finger, which will show when they get down to a certain level, we flip it back to 85%. Now it's got the body's doing all that, it has the blood vessels dilated, the heart pumping, and it'll pump a whole lot of oxygen to lots of areas of the body that a lot of elderly people don't get much oxygen to. And that starts the process of healing. It starts opening up or waking up dormant cells that haven't been doing well for a long time. We see people's, like you said, their mood get better, their appetites grow, their sleep patterns, they sleep a lot better. We can get people off CPAP machines, things like that. And we have seen some memory improvement also. We do play some games. We have lunch and dinner, obviously. We try to have dinner anywhere from 3:30 to 4:30 because we want to have them do sort of intermittent fasting and have 15, 16 hours until breakfast comes the next morning. It also helps them sleep better if they're not, you know, going to sleep on a full stomach. Obviously, we're giving them medications as required by the doctors and everything along the way. However, we'll um, we'll set benchmarks with the doctors of, hey, if their blood pressure stays at this level for so long, can we start cutting back on the blood pressure medications? Or same with blood sugar, can we cut back on their insulin or their metformin, that kind of thing. All of the medications, the antidepressants we have to be a lot more careful with, but if they're in a good mood and they're doing well, we'll try to even cut back on those. And and then they go to bed probably 7:30, 8. Some stay up a little later. They all have TVs in their room if they want to, or they read or something like that. We do have a sauna and we do red light therapy as well. And they'll get the hydrogen water 3 times a day with their meals as well.
Talk to us a little bit about how the family members have adapted to this. What year did you start this?
Well, I bought the homes in 2015 and 16, but I probably didn't really get into this, all the nutrition and lifestyle changes until probably it was during the pandemic.
Okay, so roughly 5-ish years, 4 to 5-ish years. So that's a good track record to experience a lot of good changes, resistance, overcoming all of that. So talk to us a little bit about the families, especially now that are observing this. Do they have questions when they're coming into it? I know you and I had talked before about that there are specific laws as to what you can and can't regulate. You can't prohibit somebody from eating a certain thing. I don't know if you have latitude not to have it in your facility. Talk to us a little bit about that too, and in terms of how the families, for the most part now especially, are transitioning with this.
Well, I get a lot of families, thanks to people like you putting me on their podcasts, that hear me in the internet and call me to specifically have this therapy and treatment and diet. So those are very easy. I don't have to sell them on it. They're coming to me because they see what I'm doing. The local ones that come, or I get a referral from a company called A Place for Mom or some of the local referral agents, they're a little tougher because some of them are, hey, my mom's 85, let her have what she wants. She's not going to get better. And so I agree to that, and we try to feed them. We still try to not have stuff. I'll never tell them no, you can't have it, unless the family obviously wants me to tell them no. But we ask them to kind of eat it in their room if it's a treat, so we don't get other people saying, well, how come they get it and I don't? Or if the family wants to bring some treats over to them, go in your room, or we have separate sort of seating areas in the homes that they can have some there. But we really try to discourage all the treats and the processed foods and things like that, unless they really want it. But one of the benefits of getting people better is they can go with their families more on outings. They can go out to restaurants. They can go home. And I don't know what they feed them there. I'm not going to ask. That's their deal. But you know, it's an incentive to eat well in our place so that if you want a treat day or a cheat day, you can go off and do it with your families to your heart content and then come back and let's see if we can get you back on the straight and narrow. So it's, yes, the Department of Health requires me not to withhold food or anything like that, and I never would, but I really try to make it a lot easier to eat what I'm eating than otherwise. And we have a nutritionist that helps us. I have to call her a health coach. She's not like a certified nutritionist, but she's very good at taking what people's wants and desires are and changing the ingredients a little in it to make it a very low carb, low or no sugar treat. So it's not like they never get dessert. They just get dessert made much more out of fat and maybe a little artificial sweetener rather than sugar and carbohydrates.
Well, it's that 80-20, the 80-20 rule for sure. I mean, if you're really focused, or even 90-10, but let's, focus on 80-20. If 80% of the time you're doing great, it gives you a little bit of leeway. And it's kind of like what you're saying, and we've talked about, and you and I have both experienced, once you start feeling better, you lose your desire for so much of that other stuff. So I'm curious, if they do go out, have you experienced a lot of shift when they come back in? Like, lethargy and tiredness and maybe some chronic issues coming back. Have you had any experiences where they didn't have such a great experience and they kind of went, wow, I'm not doing that again?
Yeah, it really is person dependent. Some of the people and residents in our home just completely embrace it, love it, and like you and I start, I don't want to go to that restaurant. It's going to make me feel awful. Some, um, I would say the ones that we put on the diet for the most part will go and they might fall back a little, but they bounce back very quickly. It's the ones, that kind of fight us on it, that their family's not thrilled with it, that brings treats into them or something. But still trying to sort of put in as much nutrition as we can without making them mad. Those are the ones that go to a restaurant and come back and they're like, we got some work to do here. You know, it's going to be a challenge because they go, I think it builds up for them because their family does bring them some treats, so they still have a lot of cravings for that kind of stuff. So when they go out to a restaurant, let's get the double mountain of ice cream dessert thing and let's go to town. And then they come back on, oh, I'll never do that again. But give it a day or two and they'll want to do it again.
I know we had talked before about the product Insure, and I know there are other ones out there like that. And I know for me, I was so resistant to that. I started watching it filter its way into my mom's diet through, her multiple hospital stays and rehab center stays, and then pretty soon it was showing up at the house. So talk to us. And I just was like appalled. I was like, and she would say, I really like this. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't like you. I mean, it's filled with nothing but garbage. I mean, there's nothing nutritional in there at all. And yet it seems to be so highly touted by the associations that are, overseeing all this. So talk to us a little bit about your experience with that.
Okay, well, Ensure, I believe, is made by Nestle, which should tell you right there. Um, there's also something called Boost out in the marketplace. And, you know, first of all, anything sold in a pharmacy is probably not whole food nutrition. Um, Even if it does say in the nutrition aisle. If you look, one thing my health coach really drilled into our cooks and our caregivers and everything is when you buy food, don't look at the front of the package. That's where the marketing is. Look at the back where the regulatory agencies say you got to list all the ingredients in your food. And if you look at a product like Ensure or Boost, um, the top ingredients are like sugar and maltodextrin and corn syrup. It's not, you think, okay, it's this protein shake. There's going to be, whey protein or beef tallow isolate or something like that. No, it's blatant. It's like sugar and maltodextrin. And I can tell you that the insurance companies cover a lot of those drinks. So it's very easy, it's free basically. I used to have hospices drop off cases of it at a time. No, they just leave it at the door. Like it's not valuable at all. The government's paying for it. So it's very easy to get hooked on it. And I know early on when I was doing this, we'd give them the insure because hey, here's free food, so it helps the budget a lot. And these people, they'd love it. They'd down it like crazy. Oh, I love the taste of it and everything. I need insure. And the doctors and nurses would say, well, they need protein, so here's how we're going to get you protein. But it's not good protein at all. Since then, we've discovered a couple shakes that are, or protein powders that are very good, very low carb, no sugar, lots of fat, and we serve those, and they taste very good. One comes in vanilla and chocolate, one comes in vanilla and chocolate macadamia, and the residents love it, and it is very good for them too. So but I can't get the government or the insurance companies to cover that. So I pay for that out of my pocket, but it's worth it to see how well people do. And I don't see, especially when they're transitioning the carnivore or keto diet, that sweet craving, the sweet taste is one of the last taste sensations people lose as they get older. And so they're really craving it. So if you can substitute a really good protein shake and get rid of the insurer, you can help make that transition a lot easier for them. I have a lot of hospices that tell their people, do not bring Ensure to Hal's house. He'll just throw it away. So, and that's what we do a lot.
That's perfect. That's good. And they should definitely know that because it is just pure garbage. Like I say, I watched it with my mom. I would shake my head and, my mom passed away in April and it was basically, I always call it death by pancakes because she was in a rehab center. She was having a lot of diabetic issues and hers was truly lifestyle related, which is so funny because she raised me so well. She was really a mom before her time with health and nutrition. I mean, I am a cereal snob because I grew up with a father who got up every day and made us bacon and eggs and,
Wow.
did hash browns from, grated potatoes that he would boil and that kind of thing. And so I just grew up never really liking cereal. It was like, what? Oh, that's for the peasants, whatever. I mean, I was just, really spoiled. And now I realize how fortunate I was. And because of that, we didn't have canned foods. I mean, I didn't grow up with a lot of the ultra processed foods when Chef Boyardee and SpaghettiOs and a lot of that prepackaged stuff. We would have TV dinners once a month, maybe. And I hated them, to be really honest with you. I didn't like them,
Yeah.
even back then. And so for me personally, I never got into the lean cuisine or any of that kind of stuff myself because it always tasted so chemically to me. Like it never
Right.
tasted, it was never good. Like I just didn't enjoy any of that. And I'm so grateful now. I didn't realize how well my mom did doing that. But somewhere along the way, she lost the plot. And it's kind of like what you said. I mean, I watched her, become diabetic, and then I watched that affect. She was never diagnosed with Alzheimer's and never fully with dementia, but you could see it, just different parts of it. You could experience it. And I always tried to tell her it's lifestyle. Like we can reverse this, we can do this. Oh, really? We can. But I just never could, I wasn't living with her. And you can't,
Right.
unless you're there really like I am with my dad now, I can control so much of that. And I'm already seeing the difference, and I've just already seen the difference. And it's truly amazing. Um, so, I mean, she was in rehab and I finally called and spoke to the nurse when I got on the phone with her and I couldn't even understand her. She couldn't understand me. And I said, hey, what did she have for breakfast? This was like 9 in the morning. Let me check. Oh, pancakes and, like a donut. I mean, it was nothing but a sugar carb fest. And I said, there you go. That's all I needed to know. I knew exactly when you told, talking to her, I knew exactly that's what had happened. And it was kind of like you. I was like, could you please put in red on her door, whatever, she needs meat and eggs every morning for breakfast. Well, we can't really do that, whatever. And I lost that battle, but I'm not going to lose it with my dad. And I'm kind of like you now. I'm on a mission. I mean, it's criminal to me, especially here in the United States, how we disregard our aging population. It's like they're used up. We're just waiting for them, to put them away somewhere and to die and, do whatever instead of really valuing them like other cultures do and their wisdom and, and learning from that and working hard to keep them alive. Um, so I
So
know,
many,
go ahead.
so many of them have just amazing stories. And that's all getting lost too. It's really sad. You
Yeah.
know, these guys have lived fantastic lives. I had a guy who was shot down over Vietnam and spent 5.5 years in the Hanoi Hilton POW
Oh,
camp. I had a guy who flew in the Berlin airlift. I had a guy who made a fortune flipping cattle ranches in northern Canada. I have a lady now that was a backup singer in the show Hee Haw. I mean, all that stuff is just so interesting and fascinating, and it's really living history. It's not, a documentary you watch or what you have to memorize for the test in school. It's like these guys were there and making it happen, and you're like, they deserve so much respect for that.
yeah, really. I mean, we could grow so much as individuals just from drawing from that rich, you know, piece of wisdom and lived experiences that they have. Yeah, so much. So I know you're on a mission and I'm on that with you. And I'm excited to kind of join forces with you. We're here in Arizona. How can we best spread the message? I know you and I have chatted a little bit, and I know it's one of your things that, you've got people reaching out to you now saying, how can I do this in my, assisted living facility and all of that? What do we do to bring people together? I know you and I are working on doing some events here in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. So definitely drop a comment below, or you can go to peakperformancehabits.com. I have a contact form there. Let me know if you're in that area and you're interested, or if you're just interested in general. We'll work on that. But tell me a little bit about what you see as the future, not just for you and your facilities, but for getting this message out there.
Sure. I'm working on an event with my nutrition or health coach and a doctor who's very into this. We're going to put together like a webinar. I hope to do more of those. I'm thinking about doing like a community um, online that we can get like-minded people to help each other out and support it. I notice a lot of the support groups, especially for elderly people, when you have an Alzheimer's support group or a stroke support group or a ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease support group. Um, it's very much let's raise money for the pharmaceutical research. And a lot of those don't do anything. And for quite frankly, the pharmaceutical companies are not hurting for money right now. So it's not a let's fight this. It's a how do we manage the decline kind of support groups. And I think what we need to do is turn those into, fighting support groups of how do I convince my mom to eat low carb? How do I get my dad getting off the couch to exercise? What resources are there? How do I make food that they'll find tasty? How do I kick the sugar habit? How do I get them off the medications they're on? I don't think they need three blood pressure medications. One will probably be enough, and then if we can get them healthy, none, like you are doing. So I think the future is that kind of the events you and I are doing, the events I'm doing with other people, and building support groups that are really support to improve. Instead of Alcoholics Anonymous, let's have Elder Anonymous. I don't know what the right word for it is, but
Pharmaceutical
Alcoholics,
Anonymous.
yeah, but Alcoholics Anonymous really tries to get you to stop being an alcoholic. That's what I want you to stop being a dementia patient, stop
Right.
your chronic heart disease or yeah. So that's the challenge. And it can be done with what you said, the cut in your finger. Let's put good fuel in your body and let the miracles happen and
Yeah,
help each other
absolutely.
do that.
So if we covered a lot there, and it does seem like a lot, and I always like to remind people, and I know you're from the military. I have a son in the Marine Corps, and I've studied the Navy SEALs a little bit in their philosophy of, you can't look at it like you're standing down here and you're looking to get through the crucible in the Marine Corps or climb Mount Everest or whatever it is. One of the things the SEALs do is you're just looking to get to the next thing in the day. You're not even looking at the end of the day. And so, we've talked about getting off of pharmaceuticals. We've talked about cleaning up your diet, getting rid of seed oils, sugars, exercising more, all of that. If you could just give 3 simple tips to get started with, and I'm a big habit stacker person. I love that whole philosophy is that you adjust this one habit and then you work on a second one that you stack on top of that. What would be the 3 suggestions you would have just to get started, whether you're dealing with an elderly person now, maybe a family member, you're a caregiver, or you're, headed down that path yourself and you're trying to take care of yourself, or maybe somebody who's listening is, running assisted living or looking for assisted living for someone themselves even. What would be those 3 tips that you would start with?
Uh, okay, so let's take the most common one of I just want my mom or dad to improve. All right, let's maybe take three there. I can comment briefly on the assisted living. I've had a couple assisted living homes reach out, but I haven't seen anyone who's like really committed to doing this. So when that happens, contact me. We'll work on it. I'd love to. I don't mind the competition at all. I want people to get better. So let's talk about your mom or dad. Um, there's a couple things. What I love to go back to now, you got two different sort of pathways there. You can take mom or dad that's still with you cognitively pretty well. It's just fighting you because they've got 80 years of this is how I've always done it. or you've got people who've got some cognitive impairment, and that's a whole new ball of wax. Like go on for hours about that. So I'm going to kind of talk about the ones who they're doing okay, at least cognitively, that we're trying to get them better. The first thing I do is get a good medical team around them. I notice a lot with the older generation, they're extremely trusting of doctors and I'm not doctors of profession. There's some amazing healers out there. Make sure you have a good one, that is on your side. Because if you keep talking to them all the time and then they go to the doctor and the doctor says, they don't know what they're talking about, take this instead, you're going to lose that battle a lot. Okay. Um, the second thing I would recommend is what's worked for me with a lot of people. Um, there's a great book by a guy who's actually a teacher at ASU named Robert Cialdini, and he's a psychiatry or psychology professor, and he's written some books. One's called Influence, one's called Persuasion, and he's got another one. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but um, these books are like the Bible for advertising, copywriters, people who, and they're basically, here's how the human psyche works that you can persuade people, and they do it to sell you products. But yes, full disclosure, I bought them to help advertise my assisted living book business. But I thought, oh my God, this is good stuff to help people persuade their parents to get better and healthier. Social proof is one of the big ones. Obviously, the doctor, get someone in a position of authority. It's why everyone in a bank is a vice president, because it shows, I'm an authority. You should listen to me. Um, so the doctor's another a great one. Another one under social proof is I like documentaries. Like I will watch like Animal. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's a big new
Yes.
documentary about carnivore diet. I watched that with a family member, and they were like, I'm going to do the carnivore diet after they finish watching that. So, those kind of, hey, look at all the, documentaries showing people after people getting better and better. Experts saying, we've got these studies that did this, all this kind of stuff is great. Also, another thing he talks about is writing it down. When you put something in writing, you suddenly feel obligated to do it. You feel a lot more obligated. That's why we have whole contracts kind of thing. If you can say, "Hey, I'm going to really try, and you're going to do this for my kids," or whatever reason you can find for them, let's draw up an agreement, and then you can pull it out when they falter. That's another one. And I would say a third one to try to influence them would be if you can get a group of them together. Um, you know, there's I forget what he calls it, but it's basically the peer pressure, for lack of a better that psychological term or whatever, of
It's like peer
they see
influence.
their friends doing it. So if you can get them in a group that is doing this kind of thing, that are helping each other out, that are, playing golf or tennis or pickleball or something like that and are doing very well, get them in an activity like that, then their healthy habits will rub off on your parent or loved one as well. So those would be my three to try to influence them. When it's hard for them, I'll give you three more maybe of the diet stuff is go slowly. Um, you know, pick one thing that you're going to eliminate. If they drink a lot of sodas, say, and do it slowly. If they drink a Diet Coke a day, say, let's drink a Diet Coke every other day. Let's drink a Diet Coke every third. Next week we'll go 3 days without one. The week after we'll go a week without one. And just don't worry, eat whatever you want on the other stuff, but let's get concentrate on one thing and then just the next thing and then the next thing. And that seems to help especially with our residents. And then find substitutes. Yes, I agree. Almond flour, the sugar substitutes, all that's not so great, but you step them down gradually on that. You find protein shakes that are much better than Ensure, but taste the same, and you sort of bring them along that way. Um, I'm not sure if I have a third one off the top of my head.
No, that's great. I mean, movement, morning sun, some of the stuff that
Yes.
you're already doing. I mean, it's like, what you mentioned, getting them out in the morning sun, getting them out in the fresh air, anything that you can do
And
to raise somebody's vibrational and attitude in the morning sets them
yes,
up
and,
for,
and that's a great point. Do it together.
yeah.
Don't say, Dad, go outside, and then roll over and go to sleep, because he's going to be like, why do I have to do it and you're not? But if you go, let's go outside and have a conversation. Let's go for a walk and have a conversation, hey, I'm going to go to the gym today. Want to come with me? I'll show you a few things, that kind of thing. People like to do stuff with other people they like. And so, family members can really make it a group effort rather than, hey, you should be doing this. Um, People will just be drawn to it and do that.
And it's time so well spent. I love that you say that. I go out every morning with my dad and we
Awesome.
sit out there, and I'm fortunate that I live right in the path of the Scottsdale Air Park with the airplanes landing. And we have
Yeah,
everything from, old military airplanes to sleek jets to, just
right.
people floating around in their fun little private
Cessnas.
planes. And that's kind of one of the things that we've kind of hit on, is that we'll hear it and we look for it and we talk about it, and the
Awesome.
birds singing, I mean, all that kind of stuff. And it's like
Oh, yeah.
that's the fabric of life. That's the richness of life. Those are moments you can never get back, you can't replace, and you can't even put a dollar amount to them when you're thinking of it. But I know I just am enjoying that personally so much. And I know everybody has a different situation. Maybe you don't have time to do that every morning, but maybe 3 mornings a week, you could be out there with them or whatever it is. But I love your community group effort part of it.
Yeah, the weekend morning, something like
Yeah.
that. Those are the things that also you're going to have wonderful memories of them later on. So
Yes.
it's not just in the moment, but it's what you remember of it as well.
And one other thing I wanted to make sure that I got in here, we're talking about carnivore. Hal and I are both down that path, but I'm not a purist. I will tell you that right now for a number of reasons. I like to really use the term animal based more than anything. And so please don't take away from this that, it's all or nothing, that you have to do nothing
Oh,
but, just eat meat or any of that. We're just introducing some ideas to, begin building up that nutritional base for the individual, and then their body will kind of take over. And once you begin to develop that intuitive eating style, you'll figure out, it's like we were talking about, I don't miss sugar, I don't miss this, I don't miss any of that. And when I listen to my body, it tells me you need more fat or you need more protein or those type things. So it's not just about only doing that.
yes, absolutely. If you can, like you said, 80% of the time do it, you're still going to see some big improvements. And another thing, I noticed a lot of when I'd have cravings, it was usually after I ate something. Like I'd go out, have some fast food, I'd feel like I need some kind of sugary treat as a little dessert afterwards or something like that. Um, Incorporate a little fasting. And if you're having cravings, just decide not to eat anything. If it's easy to go, okay, I got this craving, well, I'll just have a little bit of this. Just say, no, I'm not eating anything, and maybe skip a meal here and there. Especially lunch was always the bad one. I always needed a cookie after lunch or something like, or you go to a sandwich shop and they'd have a cookie in the meal with it. And it was very hard to kick that habit. But if I just skipped lunch, I didn't have that craving at all. It was the lunch part of it that made me want the cookies. So if that's another way to try to avoid those cravings or try to kick that habit.
Yeah, I kind of learned that if I felt hungry and I wasn't sure if it was true hunger, if it was just my brain saying you're hungry because I was looking at a clock, it's like drink 8 ounces of water and wait 30 minutes. It's
Very much.
amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Your clock and your circadian rhythm is huge in that. Like I'd noticed when I went on a fast, I would be hungry at noon or at 5 p.m. I wouldn't be hungry at 3 p.m. Even though I'd been fasting all day, it would be in the mealtime and then it would go away, and then the mealtime would go away. So yes, I completely agree. It goes by the clock as well.
So, any final thoughts before we wrap up here? And please let us know how we can find you.
All right. Well, my final thought is great meeting you, Jackie. I look forward to working with you a lot more. Yeah, my assisted living homes are called overall a paradise for parents. There's individual names, but that's where you can find me. My website is aparadiseforparents.com. I'm on mostly on Twitter at Hal Cranmer or Paradise for Parents. And I'm on Instagram. If you just search my name, we have a business Facebook page that's a Paradise for Parents Assisted Living too.
And I'll make sure all that's in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Thank you
All
for inviting me.
right.
This has been really fun.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to get the word out and see what we can do. We're on a mission.
Looking forward to it.
All right. All right. So, as I mentioned, if you're in the Phoenix Scottsdale area or you're interested in attending some of our workshops, our meetups, or different things like that, please go to peakperformancehabits.com/Phoenix. Get signed up to be on the list so that we can notify you as all of this comes together. We've got workshops planning in the Scottsdale area, in Surprise here in the Valley of the Sun area, and who knows where else we'll be around the valley. But we are on a mission to clean up our health, help our aging population age gracefully and happily, and we would love your support in that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next show.